This is Man to Men, the premier audio journal for men living faithfully and leading courageously. I'm Jared Musgrove, and our Live Faithfully episodes are designed for man-to-men discussions, equipping you and the men in your community to live faithfully with God and with one another. We are in what I call the connecting Proverbs. That's what I like to name the chapters 1 through 9 of the Proverbs collection, because this cohesive section is about a capacity and connection to relationships. It is about engaging our heart. It is a compass for beginning in righteousness. And today we're in chapter 2 of the Proverbs collection, and it's going to show us that walking with the one true God is truly the quest of your lifetime, guys. And you need a compass for that quest. That's why the Proverbs collection exists. We are still, in these first 9 chapters, sitting with a good father, a good mentor. We are being given the compass by which to navigate our way. Remember, we talked in Proverbs 1 about that Hebrew word, derek, as we transliterate it. That means your way, our way. And that word is going to appear over 50 times as a signpost throughout the entire collection of Proverbs. Looking at all of chapter 2 today, we will see an invitation to the quest, a posture for the quest, benefits to this quest for wisdom and godliness, and a compass for the quest laid out right here in these chapters. Then at the very end, we're going to see that perseverance, and there's a promise for the quest, for you coming to the end of it and making it the quest of your lifetime. All that for your men in your group to consider right after this. The team at Southeastern Seminary believes that last words are meant to be lasting words. That's why Jesus' command to go and make disciples drives everything that they do. With experienced faculty and a community committed to this mission, Southeastern Seminary will equip you to serve the church and fulfill the Great Commission wherever you are called, men. So join them for a campus visit and check out sebts.edu to learn how you can be equipped for ministry as a faithful disciple maker. Hey fellas, if you're a college student or you know a college student who's ready to make a difference immediately after graduating, well, Reliant Mission, friend of the show and our sponsor, has opportunities for you. They partner with top churches and ministries worldwide like the Austin Stone, Summit Church, and the International Mission Board, just to name a few. They offer incredible 1 to 2 year support-based residencies. And these aren't just any internships, guys. These are opportunities to deeply engage in meaningful ministry while being trained and developed for what God may be calling you to next. You could spend the first or even second year outside of college growing in your faith, developing tangible skills, all while making a kingdom impact. Whether you're called to serve locally or on global missions, these residencies are your gateway to full-time ministry. If you're interested, you can find out more at reliant.org. That's reliant.org. And they'd love to hear your story. You can email the guys directly at partner@reliant.org to set up a time where you can share what God's doing in your life and explore the local and global opportunities that are available to you right now. College guys, is your ideal summer job a place where you can get paid, gain important skills, and make a gospel impact? If so, then working camp is your dream summer job. You could spend your summer wearing a suit and tie in a cubicle, or spend it investing in the lives of over 100,000 campers nationwide who come to one of Lifeway's camps this summer. Friend of the show and regional sponsor Lifeway offers 3 national options for serving at camp: Fuge, Student Life, and CentraKid. All will pay you, they'll train you, and they'll give you plenty of opportunities to serve the church while building critical skills and a work ethic that will serve you well in any future career. And no guarantees, guys, but you could also meet your future wife. You can get more information about the job, not your future spouse, on the links in our show notes. So please make your summer count. Consider working camp. We're back. Chapter 2 of the Proverbs collection holds a circular argument reminiscent of the shape of a compass. There is a flow of logic to what the mentor is teaching here. Not just a random collection of wisdom potpourri, guys. It is one complete unit. This chapter of Proverbs, and in fact, this entire section of Proverbs 1 through 9, and it's meant to be received as such by a man who will incline his whole self to the quest for wisdom. Now, as we mentioned before, we are going to see an invitation, a posture you must take in this quest, benefits you're going to receive along the way, and a compass to guide you on the quest, and then ultimately how to persevere and receive the promised treasure of this quest. Now, the father, the mentor here, begins an invitation in the opening verse of chapter 2. His invitation and promise depend on you posturing your whole self toward this quest. Now, as I'm going to read here just a minute, these first opening 5 verses of chapter 2, listen for the ifs. They are a key to you accepting his invitation, ultimately an invitation from your Father God. We talked about the father, the mentor's address from Proverbs 1. He constantly refers to us as my son, my son. And here in chapter 2, it opens with my son, and it's evocative. Now, what that means in Hebrew is that's an invitational address. It's as if the father or mentor takes one long breath and begins chapter 2 of Proverbs 1 through 5. My son, if you receive my words and treasure up my commandments within you, making your ear attentive to wisdom and inclining your heart to understanding. Yes, if you call out for insight and raise your voice for understanding, if you seek it like silver and search for it as hidden treasure, then you will understand the fear of the Lord and the knowledge of God. You heard them, right? All those ifs. If you receive my words, if you treasure up my commands, if you make your ear attentive, if you incline your heart to understanding, if you call out for insight, if you raise your voice for understanding, if you seek wisdom like silver, search for it like hidden treasure, then the text says you will understand the fear of the Lord and find the knowledge of God. This image of treasure up is why we're talking about this chapter the way we do. There's all this treasure image that is used throughout. Treasure up, hidden treasure, silver, seek it, search for it. To treasure up is this image that the father mentor uses. Also later in chapter 7, we'll get to that eventually. And even throughout the collection itself, this goes on into chapter 10 of the Proverbs collection and on. And what this means, the sense of treasuring up, is a sense of hiding, of storing up, not of hoarding, but truly of planning for the future, taking what is given to you in the present and knowing that nothing is wasted with God, that he is giving good gifts that are to be used for the rest of your lifetime. Now, like with all treasure, you may not be able to act or spend this wisdom or this gift immediately, but there will be a time and times where you will draw upon this wisdom treasure. The quest for wisdom, guys, in Proverbs is not academic. It's not just memorizing a bunch of words. It's truly spiritual. It involves all of a man's heart, soul, mind, and his strength. It's about awe of God and intimacy with him. And for that, we need our whole bodies involved. That's why the father mentor's invitation makes clear to us the posture that you and I have to take for this quest. He goes on in the opening lines of chapter 2 when he says, if you make your ear attentive, that is, your whole body is leaning forward, listening. This symbolizes all the strength of your physical self straining toward the goal. This is backed up by so much of my own training and leading transformation in men. We have got to get out of just the cognitive and even the emotional if we're to see true transformation in one another. We are whole beings. So for transformation to take place, we've got to get it into the body. It's almost like lifting weights, guys. You've got to learn the form before you can actually do the work. And so in a sense, this father is saying, lean in, make your ear attentive. Get the strength of a man engaged. Get his posture involved for true change to take place. Now, the father mentor in Proverbs 1 through 9 knows this. This isn't pop psychology, but it's ancient wisdom. How we are built by God. We are holistic beings designed to give him our full self. So first we make our ear attentive. And then he says, incline your heart to understanding. We'll talk more about this Hebrew concept of the heart next time we tackle Proverbs 3. But for now, just know that the heart in the ancient Hebrew context is far more than just emotions. It is the whole being of a man. Everything that you are must be engaged in this quest. That's what incline your heart means. You are bringing your full self to the quest for understanding true inner man transformation. Calling out. In fact, that's the next command. Call out for insight. Again, guys, these are all imperatives. This is not just some advice. You can read these as commands of Scripture. Don't lose a sense of seeing those commands in the Proverbs collection, just to think that it's some just good advice that we can pick and choose to follow. These are the words of God. These are his commands to us. And one of these commands is to call out for insight. That is to engage your very voice. The command is raise your voice for understanding. That's the resounding echo of this command. It's a double commandment almost. Call out for insight, raise your voice for understanding. It's emphasized there in Hebrew poetry. Anytime you see an emphasis like that in a proverb or particularly a Psalms, even there are places in the book of Job where things are reworded or maybe restated. And that is meant to tell you that this is truly important. Pay attention. There's emphasis. It's almost like the Hebrew version of underline, bold, highlight. What this means to call out for insight, what it means to raise your voice for understanding, it means to ask. Don't just sit on the sideline in your small group together, or when you're sitting in a class or a conversation. Be curious. Part of the quest to be wise and to be a godly leader means to call out for insight and to raise your voice for understanding. We have to ask. We also have to ask God. Solomon, the author of so many of these Proverbs, verbally asked the Lord for wisdom. Have you ever done the same? Pray out loud to God repeatedly and ask to be made such a man who possesses the treasure in order to bless God and his people. Guys, this could be you and me if we call out for insight, if we raise our voice for understanding. The Lord loves to give good gifts to his sons. And it's not just gifts to get us out of a conundrum. This is for daily walking. Let's take a look again at verses 4 and 5 as we're talking about these ifs and then the then. If you seek it like silver, that is this wisdom and this insight, and find the knowledge of God, then you will understand the fear of the Lord and find the knowledge of God. If you seek it like silver and search for it a hidden treasure, there's some of that Hebrew repetition going on again. This is not going to be a quick one and done search, guys. This is not going to be Googling wisdom. This is not going to be nailed it kind of wisdom. This is not going to be Twitter 140 characters type of wisdom. This is a lifelong quest, not a one and done. Wisdom is not only to be sought in a conundrum, like I said just a minute ago, but wisdom is to be a daily drive, to seek its treasure. It'll take the rest of your life. And in doing so, you demonstrate what the text says, the fear of the Lord. It says, if you do these things, if you seek it like silver, if you search for it as hidden treasure, then is the culmination of all the ifs. So it seems that the father mentor has given us this circular charge in a sense, kind of like a compass is a circle. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. We learn that in Proverbs 1. But wisdom is to be pursued to understand the fear of the Lord. Like a compass, guys, this is a circular command and will always lead you home. You demonstrate the fear of the Lord by seeking wisdom, and you get wisdom when you seek the fear of the Lord as a treasure. They work together. So a question I've got for you guys in your group is, how does your daily seeking display what you're searching for, men? Because there's a promise attached to this, verses 5 and 6. Then you will understand the fear of the Lord and find the knowledge of God. For the Lord gives wisdom, from his mouth come knowledge and understanding. He stores up sound wisdom for the upright. He is a shield to those who walk in integrity. So we had the Father's invitation. We had the posture, whole body involved. We walked through just some of the things that we are leaning into to get wisdom. And then here in verses 6 through 11, we see the benefit of the quest. And the benefit of this is nothing less than the wisdom of God for you. Wisdom is a gift from God. We saw that. We read it. We've heard it. What you seek, the Lord will give, men. You can believe on him for those promises. And now we're commanded other places throughout the Hebrew scriptures, that is your Old Testament and the New Testament, to work out our salvation with fear and trembling, for it is the Lord working in us. Proverbs chapter 2 is really just the Proverbs agreement with such commands. God does not give the deep things to the gifted, guys. He gives them to the eager, those who seek the fear of the Lord. And the benefits are outlined right here in these middle verses in chapter 2. We see that the Lord gives wisdom in everyday matters, a way of life in verse 6, that he will give you such wisdom from his own mouth, that he has stored it up for you, verse 7. He will be your shield, verse 7, protecting you as you walk in his way, in the way of integrity. He will guard your steps and watch over the ways, Derek, there's that Hebrew word again, our signpost, the ways of his saints. Your way of living, your way of moving and being and loving and leading. God calls to himself lovers of wisdom in this sense, and we are discussing ourselves as saints. That's how God sees you. When you fear him, when you are dependent on him, then these things tend to happen in your life. Verse 9 even says another promise. Then you will understand righteousness and justice and equity, every good path. This vision of the path or the road or the decision is very much like this road is laid out for you. There's two roads that you can take. You can take the way of righteousness with God. You can take the way of unrighteousness. You can take the way of Lady Wisdom or the way of Lady Folly, as we're presented in these first 9 chapters. And then God has promised a compass for you. That's verses 10 through 15. It says, "For wisdom will come into your heart, and knowledge will be pleasant for your soul. Discretion will watch over you. Understanding will guard you, delivering you from the way," Derek, there's another signpost, "delivering you from the way of evil, from men of perverted speech who forsake the paths of righteousness to walk in the ways," Derek, "of darkness." Now, that's the promise. So what we're told here is that we will have a way, that God himself is our compass, individually and together. This is how we must walk with him and one another. And there's another promise. Verse 16. "So you will be delivered from the forbidden woman, the strange woman, from the adulteress with her smooth words." That's the promise. You'll be delivered from the forbidden woman, the loose woman, the stranger would be a good translation as well. One who's outside the circle of a man of God's proper and fruitful relationship. That's the picture. You devote yourself to the Proverbs 2 quest and the compass it commands, you'll be given perseverance and preservation from the stranger who would cut in on you, who would cut you off from the things of God. And then to end, we read verses 20 through 22. "So you will walk in the way," Derek, there's our signpost again. "You will walk in the way of the good and keep to the paths of the righteous. For the upright will inhabit the land, and those with integrity will remain in it. But the wicked will be cut off from the land, and the treacherous will be rooted out of it." These are promises, men, not merely proverbs. You inherit God in his Son, Jesus Christ. He is the culmination of every promise made to ancient Israel. And to you, in these words. You can discuss all of this in your own group this week. There's so much richness here in this Proverbs 2 compass. Here's some questions to ask as you sit with God and one another. As I mentioned earlier, how does your daily seeking display what you're searching for, guys? Your living, your moving, your being, just your habits, your way of life. Where would you like to change some habits and devote more searching to the fear of the Lord? Share that with one another in your circle. Pray for one another, just as you're sitting together, about what is brought up and what is shared. The Lord will empower each of you by his Holy Spirit to walk in a way, as long as you are seeking the fear of the Lord. Remember that circular compass we talked about? That applies here to our prayers as well. Another question I've got for you guys to talk about this week is, who makes it possible to have wisdom, according to Proverbs 2? And why is this wisdom discussed in Proverbs the only trustworthy wisdom? That's what the text claims. So why is that true? And then another one, what are Proverbs 2, 9 through 10, 16, and 20 promises? Now you may go back and reread those, verses 9 through 10, 16, and 20. Look at those promises and put them in your own words. Look at them together. Well, how would you rephrase these? How would you put these in your own words? What are these promises based on, according to Proverbs 2? How do you know that these are for you? How can you know that they are trustworthy? Now, that's a great discussion as you guys sit there in front of this sacred text. And then to close up things as you're sitting in your circle, share with one another. When was a time you felt the Lord guiding you in wisdom? So many men that I've sat with over the years have asked me what it's like to hear from God, or how can I know if he's leading me, or what is it like to experience his wisdom? And my reply to them is usually, well, tell me, when was the last time for you? And a lot of times that clicks. If you've been walking with him at all, men, you've been led and you have been guided in your way. You can immediately go back to those moments, share some of those moments, and celebrate those stories together of when the Lord led you, when you knew that you knew that you knew. He was calling you to himself. He was leading you a direction. He was speaking to you through his words. He's speaking to you in the encouragement of maybe another brother or a mentor. Share and celebrate the stories. Give thanks together in your hearts and with your prayers to God as you sit in this circle. That's Proverbs chapter 2, gentlemen. Live faithfully. Man to Man is powered by Beta Upsilon Chi, the nation's largest Christian fraternity, commonly referred to as Bucks. We exist to equip and empower college men to live faithfully and lead courageously. You can find out more about Beta Upsilon Chi by transliterating our Greek letters and adding a .org. That's byx.org. Please subscribe to Man to Men and consider giving to our work with college men across the country by following the individual partner link in the show notes. We are produced, rather well, I might add, by the good gentlemen of the Good Podcast Company. Until next time, I'm Dr. Jared Musgrove with Man to Men.